Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and this is the Iron Bowl edition of Tider Insider TV. We're going to get to the Iron Bowl. We're going to preview it in the next segment. We're going to have our predictions at the end. We're going to get to Oklahoma in just a minute and look back at that disaster in Norman. But before we do anything, though, Rodney, I do want to talk about the significance of this game just real quick, and we'll break it down in the next segment. You and I go way back following Alabama football. We go back to years with Coach Bryant, Coach Saban, Coach Stallings, where there were championships at stake. And the Iron Bowl was a big game, but there were other fish to fry. This year is one of those years, and you can say what you want about Alabama's playoff chances with 3 losses. I'm not looking at that. Obviously not going to Atlanta next week the way you would have been playing for had you beaten Oklahoma. Rodney, this is a standalone game, and I think it's a reminder of how big the Iron Bowl can be. For Alabama, and again, I want to hold off and predict, but just wanted a quick thought of you of what this means for Kalen DeBoer in his first season. With the way it's gone this year, this game's got a lot of importance on Saturday afternoon.
You know, when you look at everything that was riding on that game last week and this game as well, and then the performance that they had, I think it even kind of magnifies the importance of this game. I think right now, Kalen DeBoer in his first season, it's a big, really big game. It's always a big game. But I think right now, for the fan base, this is probably the biggest game of the year.
It is, no doubt.
And it is always a big game.
It is, but it's even bigger now because, as you mentioned, what happened in Norman. Let's go out to Gaylord Family Stadium on Saturday night. 24-3, the Tide fell to the unranked Oklahoma Sooners. Alabama has lost 3 times as a top 10 team this season. That's hard to do. Doesn't happen very often. They lost when they were number 1 to Vanderbilt. They were still in the top 10 against Tennessee, and they were number 7 against Oklahoma. What's disappointing about this one? And, you know, bad break there with Ryan Williams' foot touching the sideline, took off a touchdown off the board, then had a field goal. And then there's a break for Alabama. But the Tide never got it going, Rodney. You know, the Vanderbilt game, it was frustrating, but there were chances. The Tennessee game, it was frustrating, but they could have won it. Never in this game did they build any momentum.
It was amazing. It's like you said, Ryan Williams, you know, again, unintentionally steps out of bounds, steps there on the line. You end up with a field goal rather than a touchdown. You know, things just went against you. Jalen Milroe had some real tough luck early in the game. He threw some nice passes. C.J. Dupree dropped a few. Jeremy Bernard lost one in the lights. It's a 10-3 game at this point. Well, 17-3 because they had an interception earlier. This is back-to-back possessions when Alabama has interceptions. That was the pick 6, and everything just kind of fell apart after that. And then this play right here. Look at this.
Great
touchdown,
catch.
great play. Yeah. Bad call or incorrect call that penalized Alabama, nullified the touchdown.
Inexcusable is what it is. They said he was covered up on the line of scrimmage. They threw the flag downfield, caught Alabama for illegal touching, took the touchdown off the board, took away the down, so they didn't even get another crack at 4th down. I'm not saying they would have won the game, but you know what? Coaches get fired for mistakes. Players get benched. All kinds of things happen. Are there any consequences for these officials ever? I mean, just anyway, bad call, but a bad night for Alabama. Let's talk about, from a schematic standpoint, Alabama got out-coached on both sides of the ball. Let's start with the Oklahoma offense against the Alabama defense. Jackson Arnold, we know how highly recruited he was, and we know he's a decent athlete, but nobody thinks of him as a running quarterback. He carried the ball 25 times for 131 yards. In fact, in the first half, they just ran him over and over and over. Alabama just sat back in a regular defense. I don't know what they were hoping. Maybe an extra defender was going to drop out of the sky. I mean, you know, dare him to throw the football. Now, he went 9 of 11, too, but for not much yardage. The fact that he could run the ball over and over for first downs against Alabama just absolutely blew my mind.
If you would have told me Jackson Arnold was going to carry it 25 times, I'd have been really surprised. Again, a lot of those were basic plays that Alabama did not defend. Again, did they adjust? I think in the second half a little bit, Alabama's defense played better at that point. But again, Oklahoma runs for 257 yards.
Robinson went for over 100 yards of running back.
He sure did. And not only that, they only threw for 68 yards. And I'll go back to this, where we are right now with this pick 6. Again, it was a back-to-back possessions. Alabama throws interceptions. But, Gary, at 10-3 early in the third quarter, you're still very much in this game. And those 2 plays right there, crushing.
And on the other side, clearly, when you get whipped up front on both sides of the ball, it's hard to win. Alabama's defensive line got handled by their offensive line. And on the other side of the ball, Alabama offensively could get nothing going. And Jalen Milroe did not have a good game. You had a bye week for Oklahoma. Venables, I don't know if he's going to make it as head coach or not, but we know he's a great defensive mind. They obviously were ready for Alabama's running attack with Jalen Milroe, and it seemed like Alabama made no adjustments throughout the game.
You know, you knew Venables was good. He's a great defensive coordinator. You knew he watched the LSU tape, and that's the number one goal for defensive coordinators is we're going to take away what Jalen Milroe does best, which are his legs, his ability to run the ball. And that's what they did. They shut down the edge. They shut down the interior with his runs. And I thought there were some times that Jalen had some runs there, Gary. Frankly, he didn't run to the hole. He did not run to the hole. He missed opportunities in the run game. He ran backwards a couple of times. Again, we've seen it time and time again. When Jalen gets off to a really good start, gains some kind of confidence, rhythm, he can be really, really good. In this game, kind of some of the other games we've seen, when he doesn't get off to a good start, it kind of starts to go downhill.
Yeah, give them a lot of credit, but Alabama was not good. Milroe went 11 of 26 through the air. He had 15 carries for 7 rushing yards, only 164 yards of total offense for Jalen. No touchdowns, 3 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6, the other one setting up a short touchdown. It was a bad night. As far as the adjustments by the Alabama coaching staff, okay, you got out prepared, clearly. Oklahoma had a better game plan. But during the game, don't you start looking at trying something different, whether it's to take Jalen out of series and put Ty Simpson in, or, like I said, defensively, just dare him to throw the ball? It just seemed like Alabama just did what they did the whole night, and I was miffed by the lack of seemingly willingness to try anything different.
Yeah, I thought challenging Oklahoma to throw the football because, look, Jackson Arm's a really talented guy. He has not had a good year throwing the football. You know, he got benched earlier in the year for a freshman. He's come back. He did a nice job in this game running it. Again, they only had 68 yards rushing. They have a lot of injuries, Oklahoma does, at the receiver position. So they had to really kind of go to the run game. As far as Milroe in terms of do you take him out, I thought at the 8-minute mark after he threw that second interception, the pick 6, that's a time when you say, look, we're going to sit you down at least for a couple of series, a series or 2. Doesn't mean you bench him, but you take him, you let him calm down, you put Ty Simpson in the game. You see, is he productive? Does he do something? Does he put some points on the board? If he does, you stick with him. If not, you give Milroe an opportunity to kind of gather himself a little bit. And I'll say this, too. We need to talk about this because everybody's asking about the effort on that pick 6 of Jalen not tackling the guy. Look, you can't trip him. That's a penalty for one thing, right? But you got to push him out of bounds. You're 225 pounds. You had an opportunity to run him out of bounds. You didn't do it. So a lot of people are talking about that. There's not any excuse for it.
Yeah, and at least Alabama scored. They didn't get shut out. 3 points, the lowest since 2004 against South Carolina. So they got a field goal and not anything else. Real quickly, the thought, more follow-up on the call that, the guy said, the official said, Williams was covered up on the line of scrimmage and he wasn't. It's one thing to miss a hold or a face mask or something like that, but this was such a terribly botched call. Again, I feel bad for Ron Williams because he makes a great play here. He deserves the touchdown. Now, whether Alabama would have come back and won the game, I don't know, but at least they might have had a chance.
And Milroe made a fantastic throw, too. So it was a really good play by both the players, and it's unfortunate because, like you said, it's 24-10 at that point. Alabama still has time to come back, maybe tie the game, put the game in overtime. This really takes, I can't tell you how this takes the wind out of a team's sails.
Yeah, it was over after that call.
You can say, look, Alabama wasn't going to come back. No, we don't know that. But we do know one thing. After this play, the wind was out of Alabama's sail. Look at the time.
And you never see DeBoer react like that either.
Still 14 minutes left in the game.
It was horrible. All right, well, let's move on. We'll have the Iron Bowl in the next segment. Recruiting, though, some good news came out of the game. Real quick, first, though, bad news on Deontay Lawson. Lost for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Deontay. And, again, he's your signal caller. Yeah. So it's tough on defense.
All right. The loss did not seem to affect recruiting negatively. 2 commitments today. Let's start with a flip. Running back Jace Clarizio three-star running back from East Lansing, committed to Michigan State for 6 months, flips to Alabama. Three-star running back. You think of Mark Ingram when you think that area.
Yeah,
and
right.
he's 5'11", 195 pounds, powerful running back, Rodney. What do you know about him?
I tell you what, you see him there breaking tackles, guys bouncing off of him, Gary. He's a one-cut guy, and then I'm telling you, he's upfield really quick. He's got some explosiveness. Watch him here. You'll see him on a couple of these runs. The exhibits that, and again, really talented guy. And you know, Coach Cap, the offensive line coach for Alabama,
Recruited him.
formerly up there at Michigan State, so he was really well aware of him.
And his dad, Craig Johnson, was recruited by Nick Saban at Michigan State, so there are some ties there. Again, Mark Ingram was a three-star too. I'm not saying he's going to be Mark Ingram, but he is pretty good. And you're always recruiting for the future as well. 2027 class cornerback Alex Ward from Walton High School in Marietta, Georgia, 6'1", 175. He picks Alabama over Auburn, Florida State, Georgia, and South Carolina.
Long time to go. We've talked about these early commitments. They've already had some in this class that have committed and for 2026, you know, Gary, and they've already backed off their commitments. So, again, long time to go, but he's a great athlete. You can see why all those schools already recruit. When you have an offer list like that,
yeah,
at this age, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's impressive to say the least. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, our weekly Bama in the NFL segment. It's always must-see Tide TV. And we'll also discuss the biggest rivalry, in our opinion, in college football. I know it's arguable, but in this state, there's only one, and it's the Iron Bowl. Alabama's going to have to play better. Auburn, all of a sudden, has got a lot of momentum. We'll break it down for you next. And then a little bit later on in the show, we'll get to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. We know we want to give you an opportunity to get on and talk about this game. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call. We'll be right back with more Tider Insider TV.
Good quarterback. He's fast, but, I mean, he's not faster than me. I'm pretty just that. Like, he will not get out that box this week, and that's something I'm going to have to work on all week this week at practice, and something that some of the guys are going to have to help me with.
And welcome back to TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. TITV presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Go to visittuscaloosa.com. All right, that's just a portion of what DeMarcus Ritter, the freshman linebacker from Chilton County High School that was recruited heavily by Alabama, had to say. Now, this has been a rivalry. Traditionally, there hasn't been a lot of trash talking. Auburn didn't get the memo this year, or maybe they did. Maybe their coach said, hey, go out, and because Coleman was talking, Thompson was tweeting out stuff, Asante Samuel was talking about coming in here and kicking Bama you-know-what after their game on Saturday against A&M. Ryan Williams is the most electric, arguably, wide receiver in the country. And Riddick also said, he ain't no big-time player to me. And you heard him say that Jalen Milroe won't get out of the box against him because he's faster than Milroe. And he said he would never lose to Alabama. So, hey, man, maybe he's, confident, but I was surprised by that.
Yeah, look, I think those are all things that you can use. Especially when you're kind of Alabama, you're coming off the game that they're coming off of. You wonder what the mindset's going to be. If you're not motivated by your performance against Oklahoma to play better, and then you hear the way your opponent's kind of disrespecting you, right? I think it's a lot of motivation.
All right, let's get to the game. This is the 89th edition. Remember, they didn't play for 40 years, from 1908 to 1948. And that's one reason the series is only 50-37 with one tie. Because I guarantee you in those 40 years, Alabama would have won more than 30 of them. They were a lot better. And then when they started it back, Alabama won 55-0. Then right after that, Steve Jordan came, and Auburn had an uptick. And, of course, Tuberville won 6 in a row. But Alabama, 12-5 under Saban against Auburn. They've won 4 in a row. This game is in Tuscaloosa at Saban Field at Bryant Denny Stadium. Remember last year, 4th and 31, the Gravedigger play. Alabama, after getting haunted down there, the last 2 times down there, they pulled it out against Auburn. Should have lost in 2021 and should have lost in 2023, but they won both of them, Rodney. But Auburn is coming in here on an uptick. I said before the A&M game, I've never seen a team that was 1-5 in the SEC get so much traction, but they did go out and beat an A&M team in 4 overtime. So what was it, 43-41? Yep. And they're rolling. Alabama's coming off its worst performance of the year. So even though the Tide's 11.5-point favorite, a lot of people feel like Auburn's going to come in here and win. Well, they are. And, if you just base it on this last game, you can kind of see why. I mean, Auburn played – this was a tough win. It was an impressive win. Again, I know Auburn built a big lead. Texas A&M came back. Auburn didn't fold, though. They have folded in some games earlier this year. They lost some games, frankly, that they should have won. There's really no excuse for some of the games that they lost. But they won this one. So maybe they found their stride. I know Peyton Thorne's playing better. Obviously, Cam Coleman's had a really good November as a wide receiver. And you know what?
Look, Jarquez Hunter, he's probably as good a running back as Alabama's faced. He's an 1,100-yard rusher right now. So this is going to be an offense. We talked about the offenses Alabama's had a difficult time defending. They do a lot of the same things. If you think Jackson Arnold can run it, Peyton Thorne's a better runner, in my opinion. So they're going to have a real challenge. They've got to find a way to stop this running game.
Coach DeBoer needs this one. I'm just going to tell you, he needs this one badly. And he's got a chance to make some history. Strange but true fact, Nick Saban is the only Alabama coach to ever beat Auburn at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They played a couple times back in the late 1800s and all those years in Birmingham's. DeBoer didn't beat him here. Franchione didn't beat him here. Schuba didn't beat him here. So DeBoer can become the second Alabama coach to win against Auburn at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Speaking of coach, it is time for Coach Talk. And the head coach of the Crimson Tide will be coaching in his first Iron Bowl on Saturday. He says, though, based on what he saw last year and just since being the Alabama coach, it's not very difficult to figure out what makes this rivalry special, including last year's amazing gravedigger play when Alabama won 27-24.
You know, that's, I think, probably pretty reminiscent of what, you know, both sides are looking at as far as the effort it's going to take and playing for 4 quarters, playing every second, every play like it's your last. So that's the intensity of it.
All right, Ronnie, there it is. And that really kept Alabama from an embarrassing loss and no spot in the SEC championship game. They wouldn't have won the SEC title. They wouldn't have been in the playoff. But Bond, who's now at Texas, made that catch. Real quickly, Rodney, 4 in a row now. Alabama's got a chance to win 5 in a row. You know, Hubbard was famous for saying 1 for the thumb. This would be 1 for the thumb for Alabama. How big is it in Kalen DeBoer's first season that he not have this streak snapped and lose at home to the Auburn Tigers?
Well, again, I think it's obviously, you know, especially coming off that game and get that performance against Oklahoma, you've got to, you know, this is an opportunity, I think, to kind of make up for that a little bit. I think it certainly would finish the regular season on a positive note. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about this, but it is possible Alabama could slip into the playoffs. So Alabama still has a lot to play for here.
Yeah, and I tell you what, the thought of losing this game for Kalen DeBoer, I don't want to, not saying it would impact him long term, but in the short term, you lose the fan base. If you lose this one, you lose to 3 unranked teams in your first season when Saban lost to 3 unranked teams in 17 years. All right, all these guys on Saturday are aspiring to get to the NFL. Bama in the NFL is one of our most popular segments. Tua Tagovailoa is back, and boy, are the Dolphins happy about it. He went 29 of 40 for 317 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Waddle caught 8 of those for 144 and a touchdown. Tua is back strong, and the Dolphins have won 3 in a row. In Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs, now he splits time with David Montgomery, and you know what? It's probably not a bad thing because it keeps him fresh, but the guy just is explosive. In the run game, in the pass game, he had another great game. Josh Jacobs had a great game for the Packers in their game against the 49ers. I'm going to let this video catch up because we're going to have to start wrapping this up. Xavier McKinney also had an interception in that game right there, his 7th, which is tied for the lead, and of course, all over. Derrick Henry, a big game last night. It's just everywhere. Bama in the NFL. All right, we're going to have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get to your phone calls, and we've got our predictions on the Iron Bowl still to come as well. Tider Insider TV. It's Tider Insider Nation. Your time to sound off when we come back. Alabama men's basketball, a big one tonight in Las Vegas at 7 o'clock Central Time against the University of Houston Cougars. That's going to the game's going to be on TBS tonight, 7 o'clock, Alabama men's basketball. All right, it's time to take some phone calls, and our pal Sammy up in Walker County is going to lead us off. Hey, Sammy.
Happy early Thanksgiving, Gary, you and Rodney.
Thanks, buddy.
And look, I know there's no Deron Payne out there and no Jonathan Allen. But is it a numbers thing, or is it talent level? Is it a possible coaching on the defensive line? But what do y'all think?
All right, Sammy, I thought the defensive line was playing its best football of the season going in that Oklahoma game, right? And I'll let you piggyback on that. But they did not play well the other night. Got turned around at the line of scrimmage, got pushed off the ball, missed tackles when they did get penetration. So I don't know what happened, but that was a very poor performance by the defensive line.
Yeah, I thought last year there were times when they looked like, hey, they're coming on like some of the defensive lines. That Texas A&M game last year, College Station, the defensive line took over in the fourth quarter, but it was sporadic, nothing consistent. You know, I think, Sammy, it has a lot to do with the combination of the things he mentioned. You know, you don't have a Jonathan Allen, you don't have a Deron Payne, you don't have an Ashawn Robinson, you don't have a Jaron Reed out there right now. And frankly, some of these guys were highly recruited. Tim Smith was extremely highly recruited. You just lost a kid, Jaheim Otis, that a lot of people thought was the best defensive line prospect in the country when he came out of high school. You've got other guys on this defensive line. L.T. Overton was the #1 player in his class before he reclassified. So they've got talent, Sammy. Why aren't they playing better? Could be, like I said, a combination of all the things that you say.
Yeah, play better on Saturday. All right, we're going to get to another phone call and our email question of the day. We got to try to get back on time. We'll be back on TITV right after this. All right, welcome back to TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Our email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. And the question is, can we show DeMeco Ryans a little love in the Bama and the NFL segment? He has the Texans in first place. That's from Steve in Tuscaloosa. Steve, yeah, we can. We usually just spotlight players, but obviously, although they had a bad loss Sunday to the Titans, DeMeco's doing a great job. We love DeMeco Ryans. Rodney can tell you an interesting recruiting story about him sometime when we have more time. All right, let's get back to the phone lines, and Rick in Brent is with us. Hey, Rick.
Fine. How are y'all tonight?
Doing well.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir. You too.
Why do we always have problems with running quarterback? And even Coach Saban had this problem with, like, Mansell and Marshall. What is the deal?
Hey, Rick. Did anybody not have problems defending Johnny Manziel, Nick Marshall?
Everybody.
I mean, seriously, I appreciate the question, but seriously, I mean, those guys are really talented. Now, Diego Pavia this year, this guy's hard to get on the ground. He's just got some instinctive abilities. I think when you look at Jackson Arnold, maybe that's a better question. Yeah. He's not really mobile per se, but he's athletic enough. You know, and again, I think a lot of teams struggle with. Ask LSU about Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
You know?
You need to shut down Peyton Thorne, though. Don't need to let him hurt you with the run game on Saturday. All right, thanks for the phone calls and email. We'll be back with our predictions. What do we think about the Iron Bowl? I think probably you're wondering. Well, this game is being pumped up. We'll have it for you next. All right, we don't have much time, so let's go ahead and bring our predictions up, Rodney.
You know, Gary, my big question, what's Alabama's mindset?
Do you think they're going to get by? Listen, I'm going to ride the tide here. Nothing else matters. What happened previously, what happens next week, Bama, I think, is going to answer the bell. They're going to double off the Tigers, surprising people, 34-17. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching TITV. Good night, everybody.